People who watch my videos will note that I'm not really given to sort of video pranksterism, like wearing costumes like I'm doing right now. But there's been some insinuation that I'm somehow hostile to the ideals of anarchism in my recent, somewhat scathing critique of the Black Bloc and their antics in Toronto, and elsewhere, I suppose. Well, so I, just to prove my bona fides, I dutifully dressed up like a textbook anarchist with my Spanish CNT FAI crest on my hat and my anarcho-syndicalist bandana. And of course I'm wearing my overalls, my workers' overalls, my monos. Now that's kind of just as a little bit of a joke, actually, and I hope that I haven't offended any real anarchists by making fun of any of their deeply revered symbols or anything. I'm not making light of anything. What I'm saying is, anarchism actually is a philosophy that has always actually attracted me. I'm absolutely fascinated with the period of mid 1936, where anarchism was actually put into practice in eastern Spain, and it actually seemed to at least work as well as the collectivization and socialization experiments then taking place in the Soviet Union, but a lot less violently, and with a lot more freedom and liberty, of course. Now, the critiques that I'm actually leveling against anarchism aren't so much that the ideal is a bad one. I think that it's actually a wonderful idea. Can you imagine a society free of any coercion at all? Any even leverage? Well, I think that that's all very well, and it may happen at some point in the future, but I don't think it's likely to happen anytime soon. There'll always be power relationships in society, at least as it is now. And that's what we have to, that's the reality that we have to live within. Of course, that was the criticism leveled by the communists or Marxists at the anarchists from the very beginning, that the anarchists are hopeless dreamers, idealists, and none of it will ever work, and say what you want about us, the Bolsheviks, or the communists. We get results. We actually transform society. Maybe you don't like our methods, but in the end, you'll see, we'll create something that's pretty good. Well, we know what ended up getting created by communism, so of course that philosophy ended up being completely discredited. And it's interesting that anarchism doesn't seem to be quite as discredited as authoritarian socialism and communism and things like that kind of political philosophy. So the real problem that I have with people like the Black Bloc and most people that consider themselves of the activist type of modern anarchist is the fact that I think that they're in too much of a hurry, and they're most likely to get extremely frustrated and embittered when they run against the brick wall of the reality of the society that they're attempting to transform. You have to remember that for every one person that's interested in voluntarism, in activism, and things like this, there's a few people out there that are interested in listening to Lady Gaga and reading Cosmopolitan magazine or what are those men's magazines called? The ones I can't remember, GHF or something like this. The equivalent of all the things that so normally revolt us all about the modern world, of all the foolishness that people are so enamored of, the Big Mac culture. Well, that's the reality of the civilization that we live in. You can let that enrage you and infuriate you and get angry and frustrated at the indifference of the world to a message that you believe and perhaps you even know is the right message. Or you can just sort of say, okay, I'm not going to succeed in the short term, and so I either give up or I start to understand that a few small steps towards the ultimate goal of that ideal can go a long way towards making life more bearable here and now. And again, that sounds awfully a lot like I'm the 45-year-old guy talking to the 20-year-old young man in a hurry who's just too idealistic and too angry. And I suppose it might be. I don't know. I don't know what psychologists would have to say about the way I see these black bloc people. But I don't really see their aims as necessarily all that bad. So the reason why I actually take them on is, even though I might find anarchism a sort of desirable form of society, social organization or social non-organization, as the case may be, it's not going to happen. Or in my honest reading of the reality of the situation I live in, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So what do I do then? Well, I can become a stockbroker and give up on everybody in a world that doesn't really deserve for me to care about it, which is what a lot of hippies actually ended up doing. And in fact, in my generation, the yuppie generation, or at least they weren't really my generation, but when I was in my early 20s, that was the thing to do, was to publicly prove how non-idealistic you were now. You cut off your long hair and became an accounting consultant or a dentist or something like that, and said, oh, it was fun, but it was silly. Well, I don't seem to be going in that direction, and I have taken a direction that I think a lot of hardcore people might actually find objectionable. This is my membership card for the Canadian Auto Workers, of which I'm a member and an officer, and for 4 years I was a full-time 40-hour-a-week officer. Now, one of the interesting things about being involved in the trade union movement, and one of the things that the hardcore anarchists generally scathingly criticize the trade union movement for, is that they're playing right into the system, which is entirely possible. I don't know. But the reason why I say that this might be actually a more feasible way of attempting to get a little bit closer to the ideal society is the fact that you've got to deal with the cosmopolitan set. You've got to deal with the Maxim, yes, that's the magazine, the Maxim set. You've got to deal with people with mortgages. You've got to deal with all the normal concerns that everyone has. In society, you're actually talking about the entirety of human society here. You might not like the way that it's going, but okay, you either completely give up on it or you accept it for what it is, at least for the time being. That's what I've decided to do. And when you get involved in the trade union movement, you try and build something called a consensus or concerted action. You understand this is not such an easy thing to do. I'm not going to give up on it, but I have no illusions as to how successful I'm likely to be at the end of the day. So that really is ultimately what I'm criticizing the black bloc for. I think that they're frustrated by the reality of the world, and they don't see any other way to deal with anything apart from throwing bricks. And either that, or it's just they think it's fun to do that. I don't know. I'm not going to try and psychoanalyze anybody. But again, what actually gets lost in all of this, of course, are the other people who are demonstrating, who outnumber the black bloc probably 100 to 1 easily, probably a lot more than that, who actually have concrete issues that they want to try and bring forward in the real world. It's the age-old argument of the reformist against the revolutionary, and I suppose I've taken sides with the reformists. But my interest in anarchism and my interest in the history of the anarchist movement is very important nonetheless. Why do you think I have that scarf and that hat? It still exerts an enormous emotional and psychological pull on me, especially when you study Barcelona in 1936. It really is quite an outburst of idealism, unprecedented, I would say, in human history. But trying to recreate that in today's society, I'm not optimistic. But that doesn't mean that the idea has been in any way discredited, or that I'm likely to give up on it or find it any less engrossing and fascinating. I'm living rather comfortably in the world as it is right now. I'm not furious with the world, but I'm certainly not blind to its failings, and I do agree that there is room for improvement. So I hope that no one thinks that I'm actually criticizing or vilifying anarchism at all. Thank you.